it's been a huge week in terms of news about Trump's U-turn on Putin. Volodymyr Zelensky clearly, I think, feeling emboldened by this new sort of seeming support from President Trump, who said at the UN this week that he thinks it's possible that Ukraine could take back the territory it's lost in the conflict. I thought that was huge. I'm dying to know what you think. And then the call to arms this morning at the UN from Zelensky. Of course, you, Mikhail, predicted that Putin would never show up to any kind of peace negotiation. It's not what he wanted. Are you surprised at Trump's sort of public, misgivings about Putin? They're sort of saying he let me down. Does that surprise you?
That does not surprise me, although that's, I did not expect that to happen that early.
Right.
I expected that to happen, but I was thinking that ability of Vladimir Putin to pretend that he was still going to make any kind of concessions could last longer. But to start to make our conversation even more absurd, or to make it more multidimensional, I would say I will quote the recent blog of former Russia's president Dmitry Medvedev, who is the most radical and most sometimes irrelevant Russian politician. At the same time, he's kind of number two in Russian hierarchy, as he's deputy chairman of Security Council, and the chairman is Putin himself. So he just recently wrote his analysis of what has happened in New York during the General Assembly of the United Nations. And he writes that Donald Trump again has traveled into some kind of alternative reality and made few political statements like, look how Russia is weak. And that is some kind of alternative reality where Trump's predecessors, I quote, Barack Obama and Joe Biden are still living. But then Medvedev continues, but Trump is not like them. I'm sure he's going to be back. He always comes back. Probably in a couple of days, he will offer to President Zelensky to give up, or he will offer him to fly to Mars together with Elon Musk. Or he will do something else very important that would be enough to be nominated for the Nobel Prize. That's the most important, to change your point of view radically very often. And that's the best for the successful governing through social media. End of quote.
And this is all in Russian, Mikhail. Did he put this? So Medvedev has written this in Russian.
That's in Russian. That's in Russian. That's his long post on Telegram. But that's his main platform, and that's the most important platform. As you know, Donald Trump has his Truth Social. Russian politicians have their Telegram channels. So we see, and I think that I started with that quote because I think it's very telling about how Russian political elite reacts to what is happening. They think that it's not the end. They think that Donald Trump changes his point of view, and the fact, he treats Volodymyr Zelensky as his best friend right now, but 2 weeks ago he was hosting Putin in Alaska, and as Medvedev writes, Trump is going to be back because he always comes back. That's his prediction. So at least this post looks a bit ironic and like, yeah, he's trying to be humorous about Donald Trump and his ability to change his mind. But clearly, I think there is something about it. That's I hear that tone in from many of my sources. They are not treating
Well, they're not
the,
treating what Trump
the
says seriously, or
yes, they're not
that.
treating American politics seriously. That's true.
Well, and what Trump and the other thing, obviously, that Trump did do when he was in the UK last week was really call for European countries, right, to stop buying Russian oil and gas. So, I mean, there's been an aggressive, I would say there's been not just a U-turn, but, Trump has really amped up the rhetoric at a time when Putin has also, it seems, amped up what he's doing with these drones, right, in Poland and Estonia. So, I mean, you've been writing so much in the last week about, Putin seems from what you've been writing to be on a mission. He's firing everyone around him. He's shaking up the system. I want to get into all the amazing reporting that you've done. He's got his daughter running the department in charge of basically making Putin immortal, with government funds, obviously, with state funds. So what is Putin doing? First of all, what are the drones? What does that tell you in your mind?
He needs to escalate. He needs to change to challenge NATO. And he thinks that's the right time. He thinks that he is prevailing. He's quite strong. He's not afraid of sanctions. He thinks that he can challenge NATO and he can show them that they are weak and indecisive and they cannot respond with anything. So we were discussing with you, and I was telling you a number of times about all the potential threats to Estonia and Latvia, and I still think that it's not just an empty talk. I don't expect the real war to start in Europe really soon, but I cannot. I cannot be sure that one day, in a year or in 2 years, Putin will not decide to start another military campaign against Estonia or Latvia just to show NATO that they cannot do anything. And yes, it's important. Everything Trump was saying about Russian oil, that's basically the major topic. Everyone discusses that in Russia, and Putin is sure that nothing will happen. He's 100% sure. And everyone in Moscow were discussing the fact that Trump gave two different signals. Actually, they were quite polar. Because first, during his press conference, he said that he demands European Union as well as China and India to stop buying Russian oil. And then few hours later, he said that the path to the victory is to minimize oil prices so Russia would go bankrupt. I think that's very different. If you need countries like India and China to stop buying Russian oil, that means that oil prices would be increased, and that would be a huge sacrifice, including for the American customers. Because if the oil prices are rising, that would hurt everyone, including American customers. And I'm not sure that, like, at least Russian political business elite in Moscow, they expect that never to happen. They don't think that Donald Trump really wants to see that oil price increase to be visible in America. On the other hand, yeah, there is the possibility, the necessity to drop the prices. If prices are go down, that would really hurt Russia's economy. That's exactly what happened during Reagan administration, like during Carter administration. We remember the oil prices were skyrocketing, and the long lines at every American gas station were enormous. But then in 1984, Saudi Arabia started producing oil without any limits, and the oil prices went down, and that was the blow to Soviet economy that turned Soviet Union bankrupt. So definitely, Trump doesn't need to stop India or China to prevent them from buying Russian oil. He needs somehow to minimize the price, and there is no easy recipe. I guess there are several recipes. So probably, I don't want to be, I don't want to go there. But like hypothetically, let's imagine that the American Department of War starts a military campaign in Venezuela, and something changes, and Venezuela can change that.
I do. Yeah,
but
yeah.
but it's not China or European Union stopping consuming Russian oil. So people in Moscow, and including Vladimir Putin, they are not afraid of that talk because they don't see that happening.
Right. Well, so two things, I guess. Meanwhile, the conflict goes on, and I assume you're going to tell me that Putin is still winning, broadly.
As long as the war continues, he's still winning.
Right.
He doesn't need the real victory. He needs the war to continue.
And
obviously, Ukrainian army is not capable right now to achieve significant success. At the same time, you don't see that, but like all Russians see that there are constant attacks on Russian cities, and different Russian airports in all the major cities are shut down. Different Russian major cities suffer that wave of attacks from Ukrainian drones. So it's becoming visible. It's becoming visible in Russia, and that's okay. Putin is fine with that. He doesn't need the victory. He needs the war to continue. He needs
to keep going.
Yeah.
So, Mikhail, this brings us to this great rash of reporting that you've been doing on your Substack column. I'm shocked that you tell me just before we hopped on that you don't have, there's so much more. I mean, please produce it. But I mean, it would seem from your reporting that he's on a tear. He is ripping up his Justice Department. He's ripping up his government. What order do you want to take it? Your most recent column, the last Ukrainian in the Kremlin. Dmitry Kozak, is that how you say it? Kozak?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't, from what I read in your piece, he didn't sound like a warm and fuzzy guy. This man, and you had a run-in with him back in 2014. But why? I mean, I think it'd be interesting to tell viewers who he was and why you think Putin has got rid of him.
I must start probably one step earlier, because what's the trend that we're watching right now? Putin is getting rid of his old guard. Putin is slowly changing the team, and that doesn't mean that he's preparing to go. No, he is determined to stay, and but at the same time, he knows that he needs kind of a new generation to accompany him. So he chose himself to be his own new generation, to be his own successor. And what we heard in Beijing a few weeks ago, that was magnificent. That was Putin in his best. I always say that we need to listen carefully to what Putin says, because he really means what he says. And when he told Xi Jinping that with organ transplantation you can become immortal, and Xi Jinping said, no, 150 years. But Putin didn't say 150 years. He wants to be immortal, no matter how ridiculous it sounds. Yeah, he doesn't have a plan of succession. He doesn't have a plan to hand in the power to his daughter or to his niece or to anyone or to his bodyguard. He is there to stay. And so this presidential term, I wrote a couple of pieces about that, and as a new strategy, I was describing it recently for my report for the Atlantic Council, for the Eurasia Center in Atlantic Council, as the new strategy for this presidential term, where he's bringing up princes, uh, little neighbor babies from different powerful clans, children of his old friends, and he's growing them to be the replacement for his old buddies, for his old friends, old allies. But he's there to stay. So yeah, he is changing the guards. He has just appointed, and like sometimes it seems really ridiculous, and I will explain why, and maybe you will find something something funny if you compare that to what is happening in this country. But that's what Putin does. That's some kind of Stalinist method of choosing of personnel. He tries to appoint to any position not a professional, but a loyal person who doesn't fit that that particular job. So the person would be always uncomfortable and always dependent on the boss. He cannot be sure, he can be certain that he's doing his job well. He knows that the only source of his legitimacy is the point who appointed the person who appointed him there. That's why he's picking kind of wrong people every time. But that's not the mistake. That's not bug.
That's on purpose.
That's on purpose. Yeah.
Well,
So
yes,
he just appointed former prosecutor general to be the head of the Supreme Court of Russia, and he is like replacing old professionals with new semi-professionals, but that's on purpose.
So it wasn't. So this man, the last Ukrainian in the Kremlin, who was responsible, really, you say, for the Ukraine portfolio.
Yeah.
You're saying he wasn't so much fired as Putin just wanted new blood.
He really wanted to retire, because that was the person, Dmitry Kozak, who was long time Putin's lawyer, who was long time Putin's ally, but very uncomfortable ally, because he was probably one of the few, if not the only one, who was able to speak truth and who was able to argue with Putin openly, and
I love you
that's very rare.
He was the only person who could smoke around Putin, who's a health nut, right?
It tells a lot. Yeah.
I thought that was very telling.
It tells a lot. Yeah, Putin is now smoking. Putin is obsessed with his health. So a person who smokes in his office, that's a very brave person. So we know that Sergei Lavrov, Russian foreign minister, is crazy smoker. When he used to be Russian ambassador to UN, he spent most of his days fighting against the ban on smoking in UN headquarters. But he never dares to smoke in the Kremlin or around. But Dmitry Kozak did that, and at the same time, that was probably his ceiling. So yeah, he was. He did not. He was not a fan of the invasion. He was not in. There was no voting. They didn't have chance to vote for or against, but they had the opportunity to speak during the infamous Security Council, and he was the person who predicted that it might have been a very tough war. He predicted that Ukrainians would not greet Russian tanks with roses. He predicted that it would be a long and very bloody war, not just a quick 3 days long coup. So
Yeah.
he was right. So he was kind of against the war from the beginning. But what's important? He's Ukrainian. He's not the only one. There are a lot of people with Ukraine, from Ukraine, with Ukrainian roots in Putin's government and in his inner circle. For example, his best buddy, Yuri Kovalchuk, I wrote a lot about him. He's the closest Putin's friend, the guy who drinks red wine with him frequently. So he has Ukrainian father and grandfather as well. But at the same time, Kovalchuk was the mastermind of the war. He was the person who came up with the strategy to start the war against Ukraine. So not all the Moscow Ukrainians are pro-Ukrainian. Kozak was probably one of the few who was sympathetic, who didn't want
Right.
this war to continue. He still had relatives there in what used to be Kirovogradsk Oblast of Soviet Union. Now it's city of Kropivnitsky in Ukraine. So yeah, he was one of those not democratically politician, not a liberal politician, very very loyal technocrat, but still technocrat with a very different point of view from Putin's, because he thought that this war was bad for Russia as well as it was bad for Ukraine.
You write that he's retired, but he's almost like under house arrest. Is that right?
It always happens. You don't have in a country like Russia, like Putin's Russia, there is no way out. You cannot leave it. If you don't have a job in Kremlin, that doesn't mean that you don't belong to Kremlin. You cannot go anywhere. Kozak's predecessor, Vladislav Surkov, who was once almighty ruler of Russia, who was like the secret magician from Kremlin, the person who was playing Russian politicians as puppets, and in early years of Putin's presidency was kind of a mystic figure in the Kremlin. He was fired in 2022, and since then he lives in his dacha. He talks to very radical, very conservative politicians. He almost never leaves it. So yeah, and it's considered to be house arrest. So is it really is it his own decision or just the precaution? But yeah, for sure, those people who leave Putin's inner circle, who are not working for the Kremlin, they cannot travel. They have no place to go. They are under sanctions.
It's amazing to me that there isn't that. So, I mean, I'm raising the possibility. What about the idea? I mean, if he fires enough of these people who then find themselves under house arrest, would there ever come a moment where they banded together to no?
That will never happen. It's not really fair to compare it to Stalin, but we know that Stalin was able to fire and execute most of the people he started with, and everyone was afraid of him. So far, Putin is not Stalin. He right now looks a bit more like Brezhnev. So mm, he's not the spiritual leader, but still he's the only person everyone knows that is capable to rule the country. He knows it's better. He can deal with the West, and he showed that going to Alaska. He can keep the whole country in control. He's the only one to run at the same time FSB and all other clans in Russia. He's the only one oligarchs or former oligarchs are afraid of. So I don't see that coming. I don't see any center of power or any individual to be able to challenge him, except for something accidental can happen. Probably when young bodyguards someday will decide to do something weird. But
Right. Well,
I don't believe in a coup.
right. But let's talk this quest for immortality. I mean, obviously, the longevity is a booming business. I mean, I know that, centers have been started at places like Stanford to study this. So, I mean, in that sense, what he's doing is not so outlandish. I mean, the quest for longevity is here, and it's here in this country.
Yeah.
I think it's here everywhere, right? I mean, it's a real industry. But what's different about Putin's quest for longevity is, as you put, well, the funding and the fact that the person running this, what's the name of the department? Is his daughter. So walk us through the latest. I mean, what's happened there that's new?
That's his long dream, and it. Maybe I might be wrong, but I cannot talk about this topic without a smile because, yeah, he takes it very seriously. A lot of people are taking it seriously, but I would love to start with the anecdote, with the true story from history. I end my column on Substack with, because it's not the first time when Russian leader believes in his capability to live forever. So did Stalin, and Stalin was seriously looking for the possibility to live longer, and there was the Longevity Institute created by Ukrainian scientists, actually, in Moscow. But the problem was that genius scientist died in 1946 when he was 65, and Stalin was really furious, and he was screaming, "He was a crook. He cheated us all." So yeah, we saw that. We saw, but like that time, that looked kind of seriously, because that was real scientists, and different real scientists were working and trying to achieve uh, longevity for Stalin. Right now, when we're talking about Russia today, uh, actually, we see state budgets being stolen by different people, and when we see Putin's old friend, uh, who used to be the physicist, and Putin's daughter to head this process, it can be serious. These people are not geniuses. They are not brilliant scientists. They are the people to be the closest to the body and to have access to limitless, endless money from the budget, and they are using all this money, but nothing more. I cannot imagine Putin's daughter to be a genius doctor or researcher to find the unique solution, the unique pill for him.
Right.
It's all about the money.
It's all about the money. It's all about the money. Well, Mikhail, and then you had another column about a very famous singer in Russia, the something queen, you called her. I'm looking for
Yeah.
the headline on your piece. So tell us about.
I call it. There are also some good news from Russia.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
right, because this is an outspoken woman, right, who's now clearly not afraid to speak out again. So tell viewers about her.
Yeah, it's an important story, and it used to be the most, and probably till now, it's one of the most discussed topics in Russia about the best known pop star, and she's really important in Russia. Her name is Alla Pugacheva, and I compare her to Cher and Aretha Franklin and Janis Joplin combined. So
Wow. Wow.
if these three stars would be one person, and that person would be still alive, that would be Alla Pugacheva in Russia. So she was jokingly called uh, in Soviet era, Leonid Brezhnev, that time leader. There was a joke about him that in future encyclopedia there would be entry about Brezhnev, and he would be called the minor political leader of the era of Alla Pugacheva. So
Okay.
she was the superstar
Got it.
in the 70s already. She was bigger than Brezhnev, then she was bigger than Gorbachev, then she was bigger than Yeltsin, now she's bigger than Putin. So she's been there forever. Um, Probably now she's not that uh, popular for a Gen Z because she stopped performing about 10 years ago.
Right.
Um, but we see that, and why we're talking about her. She gave an interview 2 weeks ago, and by now it's one of the most popular videos in Russian segment of YouTube. By now it was watched by 20 million people. So
Wow.
it's really important. It's like a lot of, like, all Russians who have YouTube, because YouTube is being blocked in Russia, so you need to have VPN. But definitely a lot of people use VPN to watch this interview, and it's 4 hours long. I warn you, it's not a piece of cake. It's very long journey to listen to all of it. And she left Russia a couple of years in 2022 when Russia's invasion of Ukraine started. She moved to Israel, and then after October 7th, she moved to Cyprus. So now she lives in Cyprus. She's 76, and she's criticizing Putin. She is obviously against the war. She's criticizing harshly all those people who support the war and who stayed in Russia. So that's the first. There are not many people of her level in Russia.
Right.
Probably no. It's not the first time when she speaks out against the war, but that's the most important manifesto. And it's important because it turns up in the moment when a lot of Putin's opponents seem to be desperate, and a lot of, like, it's not fashionable right now because Putin is kind of prevailing. He's doing great domestically. He's not a pariah globally. He went to Alaska. He's meeting with Indian leader, Brazilian president, Chinese leader. So he's not an outcast, and it looks like the public opinion in Russia has changed also, because many Russians think that Putin is winning. Okay, even those people who don't like him, even those people who are against the war, they they just take it as a fact that, okay, that's a tragedy, but he's winning. And in this context, we hear that manifesto of the leading personality of Russian cultural history, who speaks out against the war, and she's just
Yeah.
reminding all the basic values. She's just like, it's mostly about the values than about politics. I love a phrase that consciousness is more important than any luxury or any wealth, and you should think about people, and, like, killing people is bad in any time. And so she's preaching to her audience about human life and about human rights and about values, and it's very interesting. It's sometimes very simple words could be working a lot, and Alla Pugacheva is known for being as an ordinary woman. She's like she's every woman in Russian uh,
Yeah.
variant. She's the voice of those people who don't have the opinion, who don't think of politics, who don't think a lot about Putin or war, and she's very close to average Russian, and it's very important. So I think um, that's some kind of a hope for me, because
Right.
that's not the end of the story. That's not the end of the dialogue, and even when it seems that propaganda is winning, but no, we see that people from the different side of barricades, they continue talking, and they continue to continue insisting on their values.
Well, and Mikhail, you're always very careful not to talk about your sources, but the fact that people clearly speak to you is also surely a beacon of hope.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm happy to have a lot of people who, it's very important that we know that people don't consider themselves to be bad guys. Everyone believes that I'm okay. I'm a good guy. Even like no matter what they do, they
Yes.
always believe that they are fighters or
Yes.
fighting on the good side. And for many people, decency is important. Even for those who are working for Putin or for Putin's government, even those Putin who stay in Russia, and like in my case, yeah, definitely, I don't have sources among strong proponents of the war. They would not talk to me. But among Putin's bureaucracy, among Putin's elite, there are a lot of people who hate this war and who want it to stop, who really don't want to be remembered as war criminals, and
Right.
who want who want to show to themselves probably that they were not supporting it, and they need to talk. They need to express their minds, if not publicly, if not openly, but it's still important.
Well, it's great that they do, and it's great that we get all this fascinating reporting coming from you. So, I mean, I guess what I'd love to do is check in. You said you've got more. You've got a whole bunch more coming of all the more changes that are going on inside the Kremlin and in Russia, that reflect, Putin tightening his grip on power. I mean, all this. I was a
No,
question that I have.
I would tell you something that you don't expect. Actually, I was planning to write about. There are so many crazy things happening, but I'm witnessing the serious discussion in Russian Orthodox Church about Charlie Kirk, and very important forces around Russian Orthodox Church want, uh, if not, I guess it's impossible to make him the saint of Russian Orthodox Church because he was not Orthodox. But they are
Charlie Kirk.
taking a lot of effort for Russian Orthodox Church to glorify Charlie Kirk and to show how valuable he was. So the most radical forces in Russia are trying to show that they valued him a lot, and they want to give a very clear signal to American elite that they love Charlie Kirk much more than anyone could possibly see. So we are definitely going to hear something from that side, and so that's
So
why
is that? So let me
that's
ask you
why
this.
I don't think that the romance between Putin and Trump is over. If not Putin, but someone from that part of the world, someone from Russia, is going to try to send those signals that we love Charlie Kirk we are the only ones who care about the family values and traditional values. We are here to fight woke culture. So yeah, we're going to hear something crazy from Russia.
But Mikhail, I mean, one has to wonder if people in Russia knew who Charlie Kirk was. I say that because people, my relatives in England didn't know who he was. Of course.
No
So
one.
this is,
Of course, no
so
one has ever heard.
presumably, this is what they've seen is how masterfully, you know, he was such an evangelical. Is that, you know, I think the memorial showed that there was this fusion, right, of religion with politics in a way that that I think we've never seen before in this country, and it was very, obviously very powerful, and so presumably that's what the Russian Orthodox Church wants to tap into.
That's why I call it crazy, because definitely all those people in Russian Orthodox Church or close to Russian Orthodox Church, they have never heard his name before. The first time they learned about him, that was the day when he died. But that's pure opportunism. They are trying to use this moment, and they are trying to use this pretext and to use his name to show that they are the potential allies. They want to be noticed by American conservatives.
So they think this is a way to get back on Trump's radar.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Fascinating. Are you going to write that?
Yeah, I'm going to find new proofs and new signals, and I'm going to combine it. Yeah.
Awesome, Mikhail. Well, let's talk when you do that. I think that's just totally riveting. Is there anything we haven't touched on today that you want to talk about?
I think we should wait for more news to come, and
there will be
it.
more. There will be more, and that Medvedev post is remarkable in many ways, not least because it shows that for all their disdain or their pretend disdain of Trump and what's going on in America, they pay close attention, very close attention, if they're talking about Elon Musk and all the rest of it. Great. Well, thank you. I'm glad we have no tech problems this time. So let's come back and do this again.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.